Live no coding session in which we are going to add a comment section to our blog website we've created in the previous live no coding session. So to add a comment section to our post pages, so this page, there are really different ways you can achieve that. The very easy way is to use a service like Disqus. So this website basically, so you can subscribe to their service, and this will allow you to embed a comment section directly to your pages. So this is really the very easy and straightforward way of doing it. But for this tutorial, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to create a comment section here by ourselves using Sketch. And this way we'll have total control over the comment section, the styling and everything, and also we avoid having ads or having to pay an additional subscription to Disqus. So let's get started. So to add a comment section, of course, we need to store these comments into a database, so into a data model. So this panel here is our data model. We already have a posts model that contains the different posts of our blog, but now what we want to do is for each post we want to add the ability to add comments. So for that we are going to create a comments data model. Now the comments data model, now a comment needs to belong to a post. So we do not want to have all comments from all the posts showing everywhere. We want to show specifically the comments that are related to this specific post. So when we are going to create the comments data model, we need to specify that a specific comment belongs to a specific post. So we will have an ID in that comment entries that will link to a specific post. Now we can link to the handle, which is the URL of a post, but instead we're going to link using the ID of the post. And that is because if in the future we want to change the URL of a blog post, this entry will change here, but we'll have to go back into the comments section and modify every comment that was linked to the previous handle to the new one. Instead, by using the ID won't change, so we can change the handle if we want, and it won't affect the comment section. So let's get started doing that. So we're going to create a comment data model. All right, and we're going to create the post ID that this comment will belong to. So this is going to be a text field because the ID is in textual form, and we're going to call it post ID. All right, and this is required. And we're also going to use this as an indexed field, because whenever we open a blog post page, we need to search into the comments database for all the comments that have the same post ID as our blog post. So we need to index this for performance. So let's save this. Now, just want to specify that this is not the same ID as the ID of this comment. So the ID, this field is for the specific comment, and that is different from the ID of the parent post here. So let's add the other fields we want our comments to hold. So the other field we want to add is the author of the comment. So let's type author. This one is required as well. You can save. Then we can add an email field. So that the author can specify their email. This one is required as well. All right, and then we can add a multi-line text, and this is going to be the actual comment or the message of that person, and that is required as well. All right, so let's save. Okay, and now we can save this. We can go back here and save this. All right, so now we have a posts data model that contains the posts. Each post has a specific ID. So this field, this is the ID of a specific post, and we have a comments data model, and each comment has an ID of its own and is linked to a post using this post ID field. All right, so let's get started trying to integrate this data model into our web page. So here we are going to go into the, well, first we're going to add the list of comments. We're going to work on the UI. So let's add maybe a heading to our page. All right, so I'm going to move this outside of the error message we have here. So this is the heading, and this will be comments. All right, then we have the list of comments. So we're going to add this right here. Try again. All right, and we're going to add a text message, so a text div that will hold a message when we do not have any comments in our blog post yet. So all right, I'm gonna move it inside of this block, and then we have the comments. So this is gonna be a div block. All right, so this will be a specific comment that will loop through, but now we need to add maybe a few elements like so we can use div text. So this one, yeah, right here, this one is going to be the author. Then we have the message or the comment. All right, we can also add maybe another div text for the date. Okay, and then we can add a final field, which is going to be the avatar of the user. All right, so now let's start playing with the UI to get things look good. All right, so we're going to set a specific width for this element so that it's centered. So we're going to do a maximum width of maybe 1000 pixels and 90% by default. Maybe not 1000, maybe 800. All right, and same goes for the comment wrapper. So we're gonna add a class for this one. It's gonna be comment wrapper, comments wrapper. All right, and here we can do the same thing with the dimensions. So 90% and 800 pixels. We can specify the margin like this so that it's centered. All right, and here we have a specific comment. Yeah, so we're gonna remove the inner margin that we have here in our comment wrapper. So let's reset this style, and now we're gonna go to the comment element. So let's add a class. It's gonna be comment. All right, and now for this comment element we can add a background. All right, maybe some inner margins. We're gonna remove the default one here, then go to the comment class. Then we can add maybe 10 pixels everywhere. All right, maybe some radius. All right, and maybe some shadow, very slight shadow like this. All right, okay. Now let's change the display mode of this element. So we're going to use the grid mode, and we will have maybe 3 columns. All right, so the first one is going to have a specific dimension, something like maybe 120 pixels. Okay, so this is for the image. Then we have the author, then we have the date, and finally we have the comment. So for the grid rows, we're going to use auto for the first one, and we're going to use 1FR, which means it's going to fill the space for this for the second row. So now what we need to do is to change this comment image. We're going to call it comment avatar. All right, and we're going to set it to span 2 rows. So we set 2 like this. Okay, so this one will fill 2 rows. So we have 2 rows here, and we have 3 columns. And we're going to change the way the author fills this column. So we're going to add comment author. This one is comment date. All right, and this one is the comment message. All right, so this one, so the comment message must span through 2 columns like this. All right, and we're gonna change the comment element so that the second column is auto. So this way it's not gonna expand this element here. The second column takes the width of this author field. All right, now let's add a little bit more styling. All right, can even reduce the opacity of this element. Right, we can also put it in uppercase, maybe even more like this. All right. Alright, we're also going to remove the inner margin here for these 2 elements. Alright, and instead here we're going to change the way they align. So align elements center. Alright, so now they're perfectly aligned. And for this one, we are specifically going to align it stretch, so that it stretches through this whole area. Now we're going to add some margins. So a column gap of maybe 15 pixels. All right. And a row gap of maybe 10 pixels. Okay, we can now remove this inner margin we have here. Perfect. All right. Now let's add some borders, or I guess some margins, some external margins here. So 15 pixels and 15 pixels. Okay, for this element here we can center it and maybe add some inner margins, 10 pixels, 10 pixels. Alright, so now we have worked on the UI, and what we can do now is add the form that allows people to add their own comments. So we're gonna go here and add an entry creator form. So this form is going to be built to create entries into our comments data model. So let's drag it right here. Yeah, so I'm going to move it. Well, we can keep it here. Or I can move it here outside of the comments wrapper. Yeah, so move it even Now it's outside of the comments wrapper. So now we're going to add some styling to this element. So create new class, comment form. All right. So these are, so these are the default values. So let's change the background, the dimensions, 90%. All right. Now we can add maybe some border radius. So 4 pixels, like the comments. Some shadow. All right. All right. Now we can change maybe the form button. We can give it a maybe a bluish color like this. Right. A lot more margin or inner margin. So something like this. We can increase the size. All right, and okay, apply specific font. So here you see that when I hover on the button, it goes to green, and that is because it has some specific different styling for the hover state. So we're gonna go here and put maybe a lighter blue. All right, so that's good. And we also have another one when we click on the button, and that is when it's pressed. And here we can, we can just remove the color, so no effect at all. But what we can do maybe is to scale it down to give like maybe 98%, 98, so that it gives like a effect as if the button is being clicked, or maybe a little bit more, 95%. Okay, like this. All right. Now let's add some external margin here, specifically at the bottom here. 30 pixels here sounds right, I think. Yeah. All right. Now we need to configure the entry creator, and this one is going to use the comments data model, and the fields that we want to show are specific fields. So specific fields that we you want to show into the form. So the first one was the email field, or maybe the author field first, then email, and then we have the comment field. All right. And the action we want when the comment is submitted is to refresh the page for now. So we'll also set the entry data here, because we need a way to link this comment to this specific blog post. So we need to set the post ID of this comment, and we're not going to allow the user to specify it themselves. We're gonna specify it by linking this field to a specific value that we're gonna set. So let's save this. So now we have the UI. We can go and refresh the page. All right. So the UI is great, but now we need to link this to the data model that we have created. So let's go here to the page controller, and here we have what we've done earlier. So we retrieve the blog post for this page and we put it into the post variable. Now what we can do is that we can put a condition. So a condition like this, and this condition will only will basically only be true whenever the post exists. All right, and so this is a way to retrieve the comment section only when the post actually exists. And whenever the post doesn't exist, we just forget about this. All right? So we retrieve the comments. So now we're going to retrieve the comments like this. So a data retriever, we're going to link it like this. And we're going to retrieve the data from the comments data model. And as I said, we are going to filter these comments and only retrieve the comments that have the post ID that is equal to the ID of our current blog post. So we're going to use the input here. We're going to allow 100 comments to show, and we can sort them by date created, either ascending or descending depending on your preference. All right, we can put ascending. All right, so now we need to link the ID of our post to this input here, because we only want to retrieve the comments that have a specific post ID. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna get the post and get a specific value from that entry. So the entry that we want to get is the ID. So this is the handle of the ID field, and the input entry is this one, and the output here is going to be the ID of this post. We take this ID and we put it here, and of course we rewire this like this. So now here we have an array of comments that have a post ID that is equal to the ID of our current post. We can now store this, as we've done earlier, into a variable like this, and this will be the comment variable. So now we're pretty much done for extracting the comments that belong to this post. What we can do now is work on something that is very important, and which is that we need to link this entry creator so that we can specify the ID here. Now to do that, we're going to use the value module like this, and this variable is going to be an entry variable, and we only want to specify one field, and that is the post ID field. So click on OK. So this will create basically a value, and the property name is post ID, and the value is the value that we extracted here. So this might look a little bit strange while we are doing this, but here what we want to do is to feed this value here, so this entry, so this default entry, into the form here, so that whenever we create a comment, so whenever someone submits a comment, the post ID is linked with this variable. So we set a variable like this, and we'll name it maybe comment entry. All right, and here we can link this to comment entry. All right, so here we are done with this. All right, so let's right now we have only linked this field with the comments entry variable, but we also need to specify here these comments. We need to loop through each and every comment in our variable and display all the comments here. So what we're going to do is loop the variable. The variable is comment, and the loop variable is going to be comment without an S. So this is the array or the list of comments, and this one is going to hold the specific comment that we're looping through. Now we're going to use this new variable that we created, the comment variable, and extract the image, author, date, and comment from it. So let's start just with the author. So we can link this to a variable. It's going to be comment.author. And this one is going to be the date created. So comment dot date created, and we want to format this as we've done previously with the blog post. So we want to give it a relative time format. So instead we're going to put equal and format it like this. So relative time. And now we have linked this variable, or this element, I guess, to the date created field in our database. All right. Now we need to do the same with the comment. So comment dot comment, because this is the comment field in the comment variable. All right. So let's save this. And another thing we need to do here is we have here this message that should only show up when we do not have a comment in our post. So we need to render this conditionally, so yes, and whenever a variable is false. And that variable is the comment with an S, because it's the variable that is generated here. Perfect. So we can save, and we can refresh the page here. All right. So here you see that we do not have any comments yet, and we see that the loop, since the loop was empty, no comment was generated here. So we can now start creating and adding comments to our page. Okay, so we can type in an author. We can put something like Patrick M. Then for the email, we can type in this example email that we're going to use. And then we can type in a comment like great article, I like it. And then we can click on the save button. All right, so now the page has refreshed, and the article, the comment is now working, and it is displayed here. Now for some reason here it displays 51 years ago, so maybe there's a problem here that we'll have to correct, and then we'll work on the image that we have here. So let's go back here and let's check this. All right, so the problem here is that I missed a D, so it's not date create, it's date created. Link to variable, save. We can refresh the page, and yeah, now it works perfectly well. So let's maybe tweak a little bit the styling here we have. So especially for the form. So let's make it a little bit more interesting. All right. Maybe I'm gonna remove the border. So put maybe a 0 pixel. And maybe instead we can add some kind of a light dark color like this. Can maybe increase the size. Maybe 0.05. And maybe more margin. So maybe 5 pixels here, 8 pixels, and 5 pixels. All right. And for these labels, we can also tweak them a little bit. Maybe 0.9, a little bit larger. Can reset this color and use an opacity instead. All right. And maybe some margin here. Save. Let's go to our page and let's refresh. All right. Perfect. So here we have like the author. Yeah, maybe the size here is way too much. So let's correct that as well. So these fields are way too large. So maybe 0.95. Okay. All right. So note that you can also just hide these labels and instead use the placeholder value here. So you can put author inside here instead of having a separate label. But that's really about the design. So you're free to do whatever you want for that. Now, something that we need to consider is that right now anyone can write a comment and submit it and it will display here. And that's not really great because we want a way to review these comments and make sure that everything inside is right. So for that, what we're going to do is inside of the comments database or the data model, we can add a new field and we can call it published or approved. All right. The default value here is that it is not approved. All right. So we can save. And we can save this like this. Now for each comment we now have a approved value here, and we need to manually approve these comments whenever we receive comments to make sure that we approve them and that they're okay to be displayed. So let's work on that. So here we're going to open the retriever here we had made for the comment. And we not only want to filter by the post ID, but we also want the comment to be approved. So we need the comment is checked. Click on OK and save this. So now if we go to our list of comments, we see that the comment has disappeared because we have not approved it yet. All right, so let's do just that. So let's go to the comment and let's approve it. All right, now we can refresh the page and the comment is now displaying again. So as you can see, it's very easy to do. Now what we can work on is this little image. So we did not add a image field here to the comment. We do not want the users to manually have to upload an image every time. Instead, we're going to use a service called Gravatar. And this means globally recognizable avatar. And the way it works is that you simply need to specify a URL like this. And for the hash is going to be basically the email. But we do not want to expose the email of people publicly. So you need to hash the email using the MD5 algorithm. And I'm going to show you how to do that right now. If the user did not subscribe to this service, it's going to show a default image, the logo of Gravatar, or we can even have like specific random images that are generated like this. So for us, we want to use maybe we can use the ident icon. So a geometric pattern based on an email hash. So this one. So for that, we need to use f equal, and then we put identity icon here for the default image, basically. Or actually, it's not the f argument; it's the d argument. All right. So the URL will look something like this. But after the D, we're not going to specify another URL. We're going to specify the identity icon. All right. Might look complex for now, but it's very straightforward. So we go back to our editor and we select here, we close this. We select the image and we're going to link this image to our Gravatar link. Now here I said it's going to be identity icon. And here we need to put the hash of our specific email. So the email of the user. So we put an equal before because we're going to use a formula. And here we remove those zeros and replace them with this comment.email. But it's not the email right away. It's the hash of the email. So you hash it like this. MD5. All right, so this is probably one of the most complex things we'll see in these tutorials. So it's maybe on your end you can just copy this and you don't need really to understand it. Alright, we can save, and then we can go to our preview and refresh the page. Perfect. So the image here that we see is the image that is linked to the email that I've used. It's a test email that I used. Now, one thing that we need to correct as well is that this image is smaller than what we wanted. This is a 100 by 100 pixels image. Maybe we would like a 200 image, just so that it fits the area properly and we do not have any scaling issues. So let's go here to the Gravatar, and we need to use this in our query, so s equal 200, so that it requests the avatar, the image, into the 200 pixels size. All right. Actually, the default was 80 pixels, not 100. So we change here the value, and we want to add this s equal 200. Save. We refresh. Alright, so now it's clearly too much. So we need to specify the styling here of the image. And we can put a width of 100 pixels. Like this, so that it doesn't overflow. We refresh, and now it's good. Now we can work a little bit on the styling of the image. Something very easy is to add some radius, so maybe 5 pixels. Alright, save. Perfect. Alright, so now we have added our comments section. The comments display, or if there's no comment, we have a message that displays. And also the comments are by default not approved by default, so we need to manually approve them and review them. Now, one last thing that we might want to do is to maybe what we want to do is whenever someone submits a comment, right now it's going to just refresh the page. But what we want to do is maybe show a message that says something like your comment was sent, it will be reviewed shortly. So to do that, we need to change the action that is taken when this form is submitted. So let's go back to the editor. So here you see that the action when the entry gets saved is refresh page, and we're going to change that to none. Actually, we're going to use a custom one, so you'll see that shortly. And what we're going to do is add a field here, and this is the message that we want to show. It's gonna be your comment was submitted, it will be reviewed shortly. Alright, we can add margins as usual. Alright, maybe a greenish color. Perfect. So this element we need to show this whenever the form is submitted. Alright, so let's save. And what we need to do is to hide this form and show this element instead whenever the form is submitted. Now, there's no action for that, because this is something custom that we want to build for ourselves. So instead we put none here, and we go to the actions tab, and we add a specific action. We're gonna call it form success, and here we can activate it. It will be triggered whenever the form is successfully submitted. All right, and what we want to do is we want to apply a change on the form, so element operations, and we can hide the element. Connect this. The current element is the element we're applying the action on, which is the form, so we hide this element, and we want to show the error message. Right now the error message, so let's save this. Right now the error message is always shown, but instead what we're going to do is we're going to hide it by default and only show it when we need it. But first we're just going to add something important, which is an element tag. So this will be used in our action that we've created to find this element into our page. So we're gonna call it comment submitted, like this. So this is the tag that will be attached to this element. Now we hide this element by default, as I said. So like this, to display hide. So now you can no longer select it unless you go here and you select it manually. And we can go to the form element, go back to the action we created, and now we're going to retrieve the element that we the comment submitted element. So it's going to search through the page for any element that has this tag. We only have one, so we can check this box. All right, so here we have the element, and that element we want to show it like this. So whenever a form is submitted and it's successful, so the comments get saved, we will hide the form, but we will also fetch or find the message, the success message, and show that element instead. So let's save. All right, let's go to our test page. All right, so now you see that the error message, the success message is not showing, and we're gonna type in maybe a new author. So testing email, something like this. So this email doesn't exist, it's not registered on Gravatar, so it's gonna show a random image here instead. And let's type a comment. So this is another comment. And note that HTML is not enabled on the comment element, so this will not work. This will not work, it will display as is. So this is because security is enabled by default. So let's hit on the save button. All right, and now your comment was submitted. It will be reviewed shortly. Now, if we refresh the page, you see that we have the form showing up again, and the comment is not displayed because it hasn't been approved yet. We can go right now and approve the comment. So we click here, and this is the new comment. Edit and approve. All right. And now we can go back and refresh the page. Perfect. And as you see here, the HTML was escaped, so there's no security vulnerability on that end. So we have pretty much completed this tutorial. You can see that it did require quite some work. You might need to make some research for these Gravatar, for a few stuff, but it was very easy to achieve with the Sketch.io platform, and now you have full control over the comment section of your posts. And you can see here, if we go to a different post, so let's see this one, you see that this one doesn't have the same comments because, of course, we linked the comments using the post ID field. So thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or issue, feel free to reach out to us. We're always happy to help you out if you have any issues with your website or project.